Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome. Welcome to part 2 of getting to know your new tarot deck. And in today's episode, I'm going to review some of the questions that came up following the episode 2 weeks ago, where I shared with you 10 strategies for awakening, welcoming, getting to know a new tarot deck. And the link for that live stream is in the description box below. So be sure to check that out after today's episode. And today we're going to work with 3 other really important points in getting to know a new tarot deck so that when you start to actually read with it, you feel much more comfortable. Welcome to Club Sadhana. Hello. I also want to suggest that each of those previous steps that we were talking about is something that you could do over and over, not something that would just happen one time. Sometimes it takes weeks, months to get to know a certain tarot deck, especially if the type of illustrations or the structure or something is a little bit different, something that you're not familiar with, or if you are brand new to the tarot as well too. So yeah, so this is something you need to be really patient with. Not all tarot decks are going to speak to you right out of the box. And I know this is a question that people have asked me many, many times, or maybe it's something that I have responded to on other people's channels. And that is, I don't tend to give away a deck immediately. That gut impression, oh, this deck isn't going to work for me. I would never read with this. Very seldom is that the case. And sometimes I find we actually do need to put it away and bring it out again a few months later. I try to always give a deck the benefit of the doubt. Okay. All right. Hi, Kristen. Welcome. Oh, that's great, Donna. You used some of the tips from the last video to examine my choices for the Healing Soul Tarot. That's great. Yeah, I think these are really important factors. Okay. Now, somebody asked me to clarify what I meant by shuffling is going to give you so much information, and shuffling is everything. And I can't remember exactly what I said, but one of the later tips was to shuffle, 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 shuffle while you are doing other activities as well too, and just get your deck in hand. For me, a good riffle shuffle is really, really important. I love it. I've loved riffle shuffling since I was a child. And for other people, they're just not comfortable with that. It feels like it's damaging the cards, or for some other reason that maybe their hands are too small or something. But whatever way you shuffle, and I have to say that I am so envious. And I know how I have a lot of Japanese friends who do this really fast overhand shuffle in this direction. It's I'm in awe of you people. That's really, really amazing. So whatever way you shuffle, this is a way to get to know your deck. Also, what I mean by this is if the cards are too large, or they're too small, or they're too sticky, perhaps they have the rose petal finish that's going to take forever to break in, or they're too slippery, shuffling is a really good way to get to know your deck and to get a handle on how to use it. Sometimes cardstock is too thick, so you can't riffle shuffle it, or the cards are oversized, and so you can only do a very, very small corner riffle. What I mean by that is you just take the corners of the deck and you can just put those together. I've seen some really beautiful shuffling techniques over the years. Some people are able to do a kind of like a fall where they somehow, and this works really well with large cards, they just kind of let the cards, the two piles, just fall together. Not something that I do. So rather than bending the cards, somehow they just let the cards fall into place. Another way is simply to wash the cards. and to spread them out all over the table. You can wash the cards face up. That's another way to get to know your deck. If you wash the cards in a face up direction, you're also looking at the artwork. Something else might show up with you. So I can't say enough about shuffling. Shuffling for so many reasons. Um, Decks love to be touched. They love to have your energy put into them. And the only way you're going to get to know a deck is by holding it, by using it, by working it. You're not going to get to know it by reading the book. And we are going to talk about reading the little white book today, so for sure. So, hi, Danielle. Welcome. And I see Danielle's asking. And you know what? I know. Oh, Karen's here as well, too. Hello, Karen. Hi, Donna Thompson. Welcome to you as well. I know a lot of people in that boat, and I have to tell you, anybody can learn to riffle shuffle, and I could probably learn. I'm watching the birds outside. Probably learn how to do this style of overhand if I practiced. I think it's just a practice thing. But Danielle is asking about how to shuffle really large, stiff deck. And I don't have it on the table, but I can use this one as an example. So this is the Le Tarot au Ramour de Étrange. No, Le Tarot au the Tarot of the Strange Branches. And this is a very thick deck. And I can riffle shuffle this because my hands are a fair size. But one of the things, Danielle, I think is that corner riffle. That works really, really well. The other thing is, yeah, and I know, so sorry, did I say the deck I was thinking about? I was talking about the Red Seeds Tarot. It's very hard for me to shuffle, and I used it for months. I was doing a lot of reflections on the Red Seeds oracles in my Facebook group, and that tarot took me some time to make friends with. But I think initially there's nothing wrong with dividing the deck in half and shuffling it in two parts. And then you could take half of this one, and half of this one, and then shuffle the whole thing together. Sometimes that is just what you have to do. It's not an easy thing to shuffle really big, oversized, stiff decks. Yeah, it can be a bit of a problem. Welcome to Hirsch. I'm not sure if I welcomed you. And who else is here today? Flower. Hello to Flower. Welcome. Tarot Geek is here as well too. Hello to all you lovely people. Okay, so that's what I meant by shuffling. And oh, Virag. Hello. Yes, I thought I recognized your family name. Okay. And the other thing too is that overhand shuffling doesn't have to be fast. You can very gently shuffle your cards. And I know a lot of people think that you have to have this super fast, fancy sort of shuffle. And that's not the case. Shuffling can be done very slowly. It can be very meditative. It creates a really, really great connection with your cards. So yeah, welcome, Jonathan. All right. So what I want to do next, I have one announcement I just don't want to forget about because I posted this yesterday. Tarot Through the Planets. So I am going to be offering 7 workshops, starting with the moon on March 11th. And in these workshops, we're going to be looking at all of the cards that are connected to the moon. So that would be all of the 9s, as well as the ones that are associated with the moon according to their decan, as well as the majors that are connected to a major zodiac sign, one of the 12 astrological signs. So we're going to look at all of the moon cards and see if we can find some new layers of meaning and how the moon responds in different situations. We're also, before we get into the cards themselves, going to look at a little bit of the mythology, talk a little bit about the particular Sephira that is connected to each of the planets and what information we might glean from that, whether it's low on the tree of life or high on the tree of life. And this is not going to be a deep dive into the tree of life. These are just initial inquiries and I think factors that are really important to understand any tarot deck that is based on the Golden Dawn. We will also look at and build in some chakra associations because I have a wealth of information to share with you in regards to the planets and their chakra associations. So these are going to be 3-hour workshops. And of course, we won't be able to completely discuss all of this, but I think these workshops are meant to inspire you to awaken a new layer into your tarot readings. And you can sign up individually by planet, or you can sign up for the whole series. And that starts the first one on March 11th. And I'm going to be doing one a month. Okay. So that's coming up. And I have lots of space in Tarot Foundations too, if you want to hop into that. And that's a 36-week course. And we're going to spend the first 12 weeks looking at all of the lead cards. So we're going to be working with the queens and all of the cards that are associated with the beginning, with new beginnings and the beginning of seasons and things like that. So I've organized the course by cardinal, fixed, and mutable signs. It's not an astrology course, but we're looking at the cards in terms of those qualities. And we will also look at those qualities in relation to other triplicities, other trifecta, such as Maiden, Mother, Crone, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, and all of that, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, because it's just such a brilliant way to take apart the tarot. And so, yes, very long course, and you can purchase that course as a single unit, or there's a payment plan as well too, if you're interested. If you have questions, let me know. You have an issue with sound. Okay, well, let me just check that. You chat amongst yourselves, and I'll see if I can do anything to fix that. Oh, um, let me know if this is what did you video audio? Okay. I have a feeling I have fixed the sound, but let me know. That should be better. I had the wrong microphone turned on. So hopefully that has fixed itself. Okay, good. I had the wrong microphone turned on. So thank you for saying that. And please, please always let me know, because it's an easy fix. Okay, excellent. Let's go on. I really appreciate your feedback. It really does help. All right, so we are going to go to, and hopefully I typed all of these out. We're going to go to number 11, lay out the 16 core cards. And I cannot believe I missed this one last time. Yeah, this is, no, that didn't work. Okay. Forgive me, I'm just fiddling now because I've I've changed my windows while I was doing that. All right. Oh my goodness gracious. Here we go. I'm still here. I'm still here. This is the Mara Loon Tarot, which I am still getting to know and working with. And I haven't decided whether I am going to share with you a brand new deck today or not. Perhaps I do have actually two on my table, but we'll see how this goes. This to me is a really fundamental part of getting to know my tarot deck. And I'm going to put the four queens on top. Pentacles, swords, cups, cups, pentacles, wands, swords. Knight, 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 queen, and queen. Another thing that you should know, if you haven't already figured this out, is that I have a preference and a respect for the magical qualities of the Tetragrammaton. And when I am studying a deck, I usually put the court cards back into the order of Wands, Cups, Swords, Pentacles. And I have a lot of different ways that I do readings and spreads. When I'm spending more time with a reading, that this component becomes really important. So when I do look at the court cards, and when I do usually unfold and spend more time with the deck, I look to see if there is what information is hidden within this magical order. Okay. So when I lay out the 16 court cards, um, I usually lay out all 16 at the same time, but just so you can see them on camera here, I'm going to do them separately with queens, kings, pages, and aces. I want to look at a few things. So first of all, the queens who have the elemental dignity of water. Um, One of the things I'm looking for is to see whether they are all female or not, because queens aren't necessarily a woman in a tarot deck. I'm looking for signs of water. That could be the activity that they're doing, the way they're holding their body. It could be a colorization in the card. I want to see that they are a receptive sort of energy. And also, I'm looking at if there has been a shift in the title of the card. And we'll look at this with another deck as well, too. If the new name embodies those qualities. One of my favorite adjusted names was listener for queens. I absolutely love that. I forget what deck that was in. That's a brilliant. It may have been the Future Ancestor Tarot. Okay. And another thing I love to do here as well too is to look at the relationship between the corresponding kings and queens. It is really helpful when working with a deck to look and see if there is a family relationship. I personally don't like it when all of the court cards of one suit appear to be disconnected in every way. The scenery is different. The clothing is different. The ages don't make any sense at all. So let's have a look and see what's going on here. And one thing that's really obvious to me in the Mariloon is that there's a color palette between the suits, which is really easy to identify. And thank you, Kristen, for putting that up. The Maraloon Tarot is available on Make Playing Cards, and it's also available on Game Crafter. And if you go to Game Crafter, you cannot get the tin box, but you do get a little white, not a book, little white book, but you do get a pamphlet. So I would check it out both on Game Crafter as well as Make Playing Cards. Okay. And then do the colors. Does the scenery make sense? And something that I'm really loving here with the Suit of Pentacles is the earthiness of the color. Um, I really love the antlers that are on the heads of these figures. It's quite something we see uh, in lieu of a crown. We have antlers, feathers. Um, this is some sort of a crystal, and then we have leaves on the King of Wands that we would see on the branches and growing off the wands. So this tells me, what does this tell me? It tells me that these chords are going to flow in story. And, so yeah. So also, I want to look at the kings to see if I feel their kingliness. Their kingliness. What do I mean? I don't want to see little children in the illustrations of the kings. It's really hard to work with a deck when you are looking at kings and queens who are, I don't know, in their teens or 20s. It's very difficult. It's nice to see a more mature attitude, a sense of experience. The queens thrive in their environment. They really look after their environment. So the environment where they are is really important. It's nice also to see if there is some sort of energy. The energy of the kings is wanting to do something with the element. They continue to test and experiment with and expand and challenge their element. And there's a lot of passivity in this deck, which, sometimes that's just the way the court cards look. So it's really important, I think, to study these cards. So let's have a look at let's go across a couple of suits and lay out the court cards. So we have Queen and King. And Page and Knight. And I'll do that for you in a couple of the suits. So right away, I'm noticing that the knights are not on horseback, which is something that is typical of the tarot. So how does the artist share the energy? That's really interesting. I thought I had all the court cards. Where are they? They are here. I want to do pentacles. So there is Knight of Pentacles, Queen of Pentacles. Sorry, sometimes it's really hard to talk and do at the same time. And it's funny. I know one of you said, "Oh, Sadhana, you make this look so easy." Yeah, sometimes it's not so easy. The question was, with the energy of the knights, which tend to be the more active court card, how is energy depicted when they are not on a horse, when they're not on a chariot, when there is lack of movement? So I'm also looking to see what is going on and what are the knights doing with the element, and what is the difference between what the page is doing with the element and what the knight is doing with the element. And to tell you the truth, in this deck, I would love to see the knights doing more. Pages tend to be playful, and we have probably the stillest and the calmest page on the low left, the one who's who's active and so charming. I love this card in the upper left. Um, I can work with these. The Page of Pentacles, I don't know if you noticed this. She has learned how to weave from her mother, and her weaving is in progress. She is, however, standing still. She's not sitting on a chair. None of these figures are sitting on a chair, and I'm wondering if this is because the artist wasn't comfortable drawing humans sitting on a chair. I'm sure once I get to know the deck, I'll be able to determine this from other cards, but it's just something that came to mind. Now, when I'm looking at these cards too, we talked earlier about facings and the way that the court cards are facing. So I will also do something like this, line up all of the knights to see if there is any intention on the part of the creator with all of the knights being actively moving forward, or are they all moving to the left? Um, I want to see if there's what the common ground is with each of the court cards. It's important to this deck is really all over the place. It's all over the place. So I will energetically, it's a very soft deck. It's very sort of gentle, comforting. It doesn't feel, I don't think I have seen a card that feels shocking in any way. So this could just be the energy of the deck, but I would love to see, and let's look at another deck because I would love to give you some other examples. Okay, so that's the Mara Loon Tarot. Now these 16 court cards can be laid out in any number of ways. Okay, this is the Tiger Tarot, and the Tiger Tarot has an abundance of court cards. And I'm going to read to you actually from the guidebook. Hopefully, I still have it on my table. This is the Page of Wands, the Knight of Wands, and I'm noticing right away that there's kind of this bluey purplish color. The Knight appears to be more active. The Page is more receptive. They're both looking in the same direction. This is the Prince of Wands. There is a lot of court cards in this deck. The Queen of Wands. And I want to respond to Jonathan's comment. And this was to do with the Mara Loon Tarot. I did talk to the creator, and I shared this with you 2 weeks ago, and I don't believe that the facings were part of the planning of the tarot at all. And she was quite surprised that I was asking questions about this. I believe it was this deck. I'm pretty sure. In this deck in general, there's a lot of right-facing cards, and so I was asking her about that intention. And then we have the King of Wands. We have 6 court cards for each, so I'm going to, and we have the Soothsayer of Wands. Now, for those of you that like court cards, this might be a really fun deck. And with 6 court cards to choose from, of course, you can pare it down and choose your favorite 4. But I want to read to you a couple of the nuances of this deck. I will get the guidebook in a moment. And I'm just going to put another suit on the table while I do that. So there's the Page of Eyes, and this is Pentacles. The Knight of Eyes, also in armor. The Prince of Eyes, Queen, King, and Soothsayer. That is one mass of color on the table. The top row is wands. The bottom row is pentacles. So I really am hard pressed to see a color dominance. Hi, Darcy. Thank you so much for your feedback. And yes, I totally agree with you. There are many layers to the court cards. And the more I learn and the more I study, the more I realize there is still to learn. Now, here is an example where I would go to the little white book. Obviously, in this deck, the creator has an intention for the extra court cards. And intuitively, you could try to reconcile this. But I think probably the fastest way to resolve this is to go, and I have read this before, but it's not stuck in my head, is to go to the description, the explanation of the deck in the little white book and to see why there are so many court cards. Okay. And I'm going to read this to you. Another important variation in Field's deck is the addition of a soothsayer court card, of which Field says they are the most powerful and pivotal cards in the deck. The soothsayer sees everything. They are conductors. We are the orchestra. She has also added a prince court card to each suit, bringing the total card count to 86. The princes in the Tiger Tarot represent a non-binary, more inclusive and less traditional interpretation of what is meant to be a prince, less royal and removed, more a prince among ordinary citizens. They are in tune with the people's struggles and triumphs. Darcy, this wacky deck is called the Tiger Tarot. Yeah. So, so there is an intention with this. This is a curated deck based on the artwork of Lori Field, and it is absolutely wild. Mhm. Um, so I think this exercise here in laying out the court cards is one that is definitely going to take a tremendous amount of time because this is an important choice. Page and eyes. This is an important choice as a reader to decide if you're going to read with this abundance of chords or if you're going to pare it down and choose either the prince or the knight, or whether you are going to um, keep all of them in the deck and read with an 86 card deck. And actually, there is an 87th card as well, too. There is an extra soothsayer called the Soothsayer of Sleep. I have had this deck out very little since I got it, but I have done a few readings and I've had some really crazy interactions among the cards and quite enjoyed it, but it's not one where you can put a lot of cards on the table because it will take some time to get familiar with the symbols and the collage. As I am looking at this deck, one of the things I am noticing is that the Page of Cups looks very much like a Page of Wands to me. And in comparing the pages and the energy of the pages, I feel this particular conversation might lead me to pull out all of the cup cards and see if they feel more wand-like. This is my process in getting to know the court cards. So I identify this very sort of feisty page of cups. I don't think I had any cups there. And so I'm going to just have a quick look here to see if there's sort of a similar energy with cups and where the emotion and how the emotion is portrayed. And here's just a few of the cup cards. And so what I'm noticing is that there is a very little cohesion with the deck, very little cohesion. So just this in itself tells me this deck is one that's going to take a lot of time to get to know. Okay. All right. Now I want to add one more deck into this conversation. I don't know if I can do that though because it's not sorted. Perhaps I will do this for the next example. Okay. Um, let's take the wee moon, which should be on my table, which has an abundance of court cards also, and the court, not an abundance. The court cards are 16, but they have changed the names of the court cards. This is the wee moon tarot. And this is something we did actually in Tarot Foundations this week. I'm shuffling the cards right now, and this is a total bonus thing. This is not something that is connected to the theme of this this video. Okay. This is a bonus one. Page Knight, Queen, and King. Page Knight, Queen, and King. These are generally the order of the court cards that I am working with. This is a bit like an interview spread, which we're going to do next. But in getting to know the court cards, I also want to know what the voice of the court cards is. And you have to have a certain level of trust with the tarot to know that this sort of thing is going to work. So I'm shuffling the Wee Moon Tarot, and I'm asking the tarot deck, what is the energy, the voice of each of the court cards? This is a spread where my intention is the first card is going to tell us something about the pages in this deck. The second is going to tell us something about the knights, and the third about the queens, and the fourth about the kings. Now, in this deck, all of the court cards have been renamed, so I'm going to, I'll show you what they are once I get this laid down. So all I'm doing is drawing 4 cards, and this is going to help me. This is, like I said, this is a bit like a deck interview spread. And I'm going to put 4 cards down on the table. And I believe in this deck, I'm going to turn them all upward facing. It's funny, I think that what do you call this? The copyright is upside down on this deck. So I turn this over, it will be right. No, it isn't. Okay, that's fine. All right, so this is our king position. My question was, what is the attitude? What is the energy? What is what do I need to know about the kings in this deck? And I turn over the 6 of fire. The keyword is passion. So this tells me 2 things. One, it confirms my affinity, association with the kings of fire, that the kings are fiery, that the kings, um, they just don't sit on the throne. They are active in the court family. Okay, so it's a very strong king answer, and this makes me want to work with the deck. Okay, so this feels very comfortable with how I work with a tarot. So let's look at the energy of the queens. What is the queen energy? All right, this is the world card. This tells me that the queens are about connection. The queens are about building the web of meaning. They are about support. They are about the creation of the circle. They also are there to support in the development of others. So this feels very much in alignment with how I work with this court. Okay. Um, and as I said, in this particular deck, they are not called Page Knight Queen King, but this same information, regardless of how those have been changed, is giving me information about those particular positions. Okay. And also, now this is interesting. So the queens, I see as being associated with water. The world card is earth element, but it also has a kind of an earth mother kind of energy. So this feels also that the queens in this deck are, um, can I say they're grounded, they are wholesome, they're connected. I think connection is a great keyword for the queens in this deck. Okay. Now the knights. In this deck, they're actually priestesses, so they're very active with their element. They're busy in ceremony and doing things, and so knights in general are on a mission to explore, to understand their spiritual qualities. They're out in the world. What is the energy of the knights or the priestesses in this deck? Okay. Um, Interesting. So, what does this tell me? This tells me that the they're called priestesses are very connected to, again, to magic. Not 369. I see as numbers of magic. I know the pentacle is also a number or a symbol of magic. Green, green magic, earth magic, that sort of thing is what I'm picking up here. There also is a receptive quality which changes the frequency of this particular chord, but and also makes sense for this deck. Okay, so they are priestesses. Um, so that's really interesting. Okay, and the page energy, what is the voice of the pages? Yeah, that's so interesting. So the copyright on this deck, some of it is right way up and some of it is not. I don't understand. Wow. So the pages are strength, holding us together. Mm. For those of you that watched, I did 2 videos on this deck. And the second video was talking about the built-in astrological associations with this deck. And the first court card and the second court card are connected to cardinal energy. They are initiators. And so this tells me that the pages in this deck, I forget what they're called. Give me 1 second and I will figure out what they're called. Somebody gets it before me, if you can put it into the chat. Oh, they're called Amazon Daughters. Amazon daughters. And so the strength card showing up here really is in alignment with that adjective describing the daughters. Don't underestimate the power of the daughters. They are a force unto themselves. Okay. And I think that um, way down the road, when I eventually get around to getting to know the Tiger Tarot, this is going to be a very important component, a spread like this, in getting to know what is going on. And I would probably do this very small and look at, we could actually do this. So where is the whole deck? Now, all of the court cards are out of here, okay? And because I had them all separated. So what I'm going to do here is my present process. Let's suppose I am trying to decide whether or not. So I was saying that we have a choice to keep in the knights and the princes, or to select one of them. Okay. So what I'm going to do right now is to ask this tarot, having removed all of the court cards, which of these courts, for the work that I do, um, is going to serve me better to keep in the deck. Okay. So on the left, I'm going to have a card that will help me to understand the knights, and on the right will be a card that will help me to understand the princes. And as we learned from the guidebook, the intention is that the princes are non-binary and they are more contemporary, whereas the knights are more of a traditional energy of a knight. But this deck seems anything but traditional. All right, so I'm going to cut. Ooh, very interesting cut. Okay, so the knights, the message is 3 of Cups. And the princes, 2 of Wands. I'm going to zoom in a little bit for you here. I'm going to read this completely intuitively. Jonathan, what do you think? I'm just curious. 3. So the 3 of Cups feels like a card of connection. The knights are cards. So when I think of the knights, I think of the energy of moving out and going beyond to explore the world, to explore my life, and so forth. But there is water here. This is the water element. So there is a lot of, I want to say, passion and heart between in the journey of the knights. It feels like they want to make connections with other cards. And in that 2 of Wands, there's something very timid. It feels almost as if the 2 of Wands is comfortable in separation, comfortable at home. In a way, it feels like this is a prince of the court, one who is protected and the food is tested before the prince eats the food. This feels very different than the description in the guidebook. It's it feels more cautious. Now, the gesture of the head in the Three of Cups is really interesting, and I will have to explore all of that. Mm. But you can just do you see what I mean? That laying down a card to explore the energy of a deck is really quite interesting. Donna. Mhm. So this is a deck that you would definitely not jump into. And one of the reasons I purchased this deck was because it was so quirky, so very quirky, and it was also hard to get. It's not a deck that you can just order online and put it in your shopping cart. So um, I thought it might be, I don't know. I just thought it's a really interesting piece to have in my library. So that's why it's here. If you're interested in purchasing the deck, you have to email the not the creator, but the curator. And I'll just tell you the email right now. So you email Kathy, Kathy, and one of the mods can put this into the chat, at imlaygallery.com. Imlay is spelled Imlay, gallery.com. Okay. It wasn't expensive. All right. Let's get back to the regularly scheduled program. Thanks, Donna. All right. Now, this is, I think, very personal, and I just need to choose the deck to work with. I think I'm going to use Tarot of the Strange Branches because I don't think I've done an interview spread with Tarot of the Strange Branches. There are, if you Google tarot interview spread, there are a lot of them on Pinterest, different places. And I think it is important to create an interview spread that relates to the kind of um, readings and the kind of work that you do with the tarot. So the five positions um, that I have put into this interview spread work for me, okay? And they may not necessarily work for you. So I'm doing this interview spread with Tarot of the Strange Branches. Le Tarot au Amour étrange. And I love this deck. I really do. This has been, and it's so stiff. It's like a workout for the hands. And if you want to shuffle a deck, you can go ahead and do this with me. My first is my central card. What work are we meant to do together? So this is the primary uh, theme, focus, kind of energy that this deck is offering. And I tend to lay this in the middle. And I have 9 of batons, 9 of wands. A heroic, a heroic journey. This is a deck that can empower me, but also empower others that I am working with. You'll notice in this 9 of Wands that the figure is moving, they're going forward. So I really like this response a lot. Um, I have felt that this deck has given very powerful readings. Many of you have had readings with this deck. It was gifted to me, and I'm so grateful for the person who sent it my way. Yeah, just really amazing. Okay. So then, this is very common in a tarot interview spread, is to lay down the strengths and the weaknesses. And I'm going to lay down these two cards together, left and right. And I'm going to actually lay them down with the strength on the right and the weakness on the left. And I'm going to tell you why I'm going to do this. And this has to do with the energy of active and so here's this other thing too. Some people read that this is the left, this is the right. But this is also the left hand of this person, and this is also the right hand of this person. So I'll leave you to it, but usually because I'm one for details, I um, well, if you know me, yeah, these are important considerations. So I'm putting the strength here, and I'm putting the weakness here, and those words can be changed. And instead of using the word strength and weakness, I can use the word like power and shadow. You know, what are your active qualities? What are your receptive qualities? But let's just go with the strength and the weakness for now, because there's something to this, and you can also think of this as the dark and the light. So the strength. What is the strength? The strength supports the energy of the first question, which is what is the work that we are meant to do together? So this is about going in to the darkness to find the light. And these two cards really speak well to each other. What this deck is not so good at now, what? Why? How could this be a weakness? So here is the all powerful Queen of Swords. Love the runes that are on her belly. This is such a great card. And just gonna edit this. I want to edit this. Um, hmm. If the strength of the deck and the work of the deck is helping others to persevere, to go into the darkness to find the light, how in the world is the weakness the queen? So she feels quite all powerful and assertive. So perhaps this is not a deck for people who already stand on their own. This is a deck for people who are earlier on in their journey. Yeah, Darcy, I agree. It is contradictory. So this, that's funny, Jonathan. That's funny. Um, This is very interesting. All right, let's look at the whole idea of the mirror and the idea of dark and light, left and right, and what these two cards are saying to each other. They are both facing the same direction. They have a different approach to one's challenges. And if you think of the suit of air as one that is quite active and direct, and so perhaps all this is telling me is that the approach to healing is one that is more earthy, one that is more receptive, that is at a little slower pace. When I think of the Queen of Swords, I think of one who is really good, really confident with languages, and has quite a direct approach. So perhaps the um, the strength of this deck is in its softness and its slow approach. Mhm. Yeah, thank you all for your feedback in this conversation. It is not always, immediately apparent how to yeah, Darcy, you've got lots of great ideas here. There's a fierceness to this queen that is very significant here. So perhaps it's not necessary to be fierce. Perhaps the idea is to be more gentle in your approach, all right? Um, Now the next one, how do you deliver your wisdom? How do you offer or deliver your wisdom? And in a way, we already have the answer to this question. So this card is um, important in that it will either expand on these two cards, giving us confirmation, or it's going to clear something up about the Queen of Swords. Okay. How do you offer or deliver your wisdom? And one of the things I said, so in the initial banner was design a deck interview spread. So you might want to add or add one of these questions or the questions that I'm offering to shift them up for an interview spread that you already use, right? So it's really important that you feel comfortable here. All right. So I have 5 of Pentacles. Mm, mm. Looking at the artwork, we what is the girl hugging and holding? An animal? I think the girl is holding an animal. It almost looks like a horse. Um, I would say that the deck is not afraid to go into the dark places. Ooh, Jonathan, that's good. I'm just reading your comment now. And it's really interesting because most of the cards in this deck are at nighttime. And all of the cards that are showing up here are nighttime cards. So this tells me something about that this is a deck that isn't afraid to go into the darkness, but it also delivers the messages slowly and What is that? How would you describe that in words? A teacher or a mentor who is not going to let you not go there, but they're also not gonna throw you in the deep end. Oh, perhaps. Yeah, perhaps she's being held by a larger figure in a cloak. Yes, yes. Thanks, Danielle. And remember that this is a 5. So a 5 showing up here also shows me that, this is not going to be, it's gonna be tough love. It's gonna be tough love. Alright, and the last card. What card in this deck is showing up as a deep teacher for me personally? What card in this deck is showing up for me as a deep teacher? Perhaps also inspiring me as a teacher. I do have a jumper, so let's go with the jumper. And the jumper is the 6 of cups. Magic, connection. There is a frame of an ancestor on the right. All of this magic and mystery is coming out of the book. There is, I believe, a full moon in the background. Now, the book is in French, and so this is one of the pages that I would, put into Google Translate and to spend some time exploring this, and I think the 6 of Cups is a wonderful, wonderful card to explore, more deeply, to really understand. Okay, so this also comes in astrologically with the fixed water sign of Scorpio, in the middle of Scorpio. And it's a really beautiful card to be in a very difficult season. It connects us to ancestors, it connects us to karma, to dharma, and all of that. Yeah, okay. 3D Tripper, you're gonna have to scroll back. I'm sorry, I don't know that I have it handy on the table here. Welcome back. Let's go to Jonathan's comment. A reminder of the magic of youth and how the youth are closer to the ancestors than adults since they just came from the ancestral realm. I love I love just looking at toddlers or babies and looking at their faces and how they look up into little corners of the room and, ah, they just know so much, so much. You're welcome, 3D Tripper. Yeah. Okay. Alright, and, I wanna talk about the Little White Book, and no, it's the Little White Book, and this is one of the questions that you asked last week, and I think this is definitely, uh, worthy of a few key points here, okay? So, um, there are some very excellent, true little white books out there, and there are also little white books that have 0 connection to the original art on the card. So when you look into the little white book, it feels like canned interpretations. It doesn't describe anything to do with this original theme of the deck you are working with. And so if your little white book feels like um, it's not adding any information, then I would say this is something to be disregarded. And however, for the most part, I think there is an effort by most creators to share some information. And I did a workshop last week with Emily Carding, creator of the Transparent Tarot, which is a deck that sat on my shelf for a long time. And I want to thank Jonathan for letting me know this workshop was happening. It was an amazing, amazing workshop. And it has got me back into this deck and really exploring the not so little companion guide. Okay. So I think the first thing to determine is this a thorough little white book? Now, a little white book, just because it's little doesn't mean it's not useful, because there are fantastic little white books. There are some really fantastic ones. And I have done videos on this topic. One that I keep on my table all the time is the little paper book that goes with the Margaret Peterson Tarot. Um, it's bent and well marked up, and this probably is one of the very, very best little white books. It talks about everything from the artwork to the original meaning. It has little bits of poetry in it. And when I'm saying this, I'm also thinking of the guidebook that goes with the Tarot of the She, which is another Emily Carding deck. And so some little white books are a wealth of information. And yes, you can read a tarot deck without ever having read the guidebook, for sure. But if you want to understand the heart of the deck, and a deck creator has put their heart into the little white book, then you definitely want to read the little white book, okay? No matter what its size is. There are a few things I look for in a little white book, and that has to do with how the creator is going through the explanations. So some creators have prioritized the numerology. Some creators mix things up in a different way. Like they might introduce all of the minors first, and then the majors, and then the quartz. They might introduce the quartz in a different order and do it more in a thoth-based style, and then introduce the kings first, and then the queens, and then the knights, and then the pages. So if there has been anything that is shifted from um, something you are familiar with, then I think it's definitely worthwhile to explore the little white book. Okay. Um, yes. Oh, that's so funny that you have just said this. I actually ordered a light board. I actually ordered a light box because I want to use it for shooting pictures. Um, yeah, light board is amazing. The transparent tarot comes with a white cloth, but I'm actually going to create um, a larger reading cloth for the transparent tarot so I can lay down more cards on the table. Mhm. I will see you there, Jonathan. I'm going to be there as well. Okay. All right. So, little white books and not so little white books. A not so little white book uh, tends to be larger and full of full of information. However, there are larger guidebooks that really don't help so much. So your discrimination in deciding whether you're going to rely on the book or not um, is really a personal part of the journey. And it also depends on your level of experience in reading the tarot as well, too. There is a deck that I gave away. I decided not to keep. It's called the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. And while it was a really beautiful artwork, I knew I wouldn't read with it. I already have a couple of fairy tale style decks. Um, but what the guidebook of that one didn't give me was any motivation for continuing to work with the deck. And I I want to I want the guidebook to inspire me. There's a few things that I think are really important. I want to know the deck creator's story and where they're coming from. When you receive a tarot deck and you have no idea what the background of the artist is, or um, if how long they've been reading tarot, or if they read tarot at all of this is, to me, it's kind of important. And for those of you that have been following me, into various deep dives, I do quite a bit of research into finding out who actually made this deck and where this deck has come from. I want a level of integrity in the deck. And this, of course, is a problem naturally with curated decks because sometimes that doesn't come together very easily. Um, so, uh, so some guidebooks really do serve well. This is another fantastic guidebook, and I have created several PDFs to go with this particular guidebook. And I don't know, I feel like if there was a second edition, that they would be there's some charts that would be really useful to put into this. And as you know, I'm an Excel person, and I love to create charts and help me understand um, decks, especially decks that are take a little bit more time to get to know. And actually, that's one of the things that I find really cool in scanning through a little white book is to see if there are any charts or ways to help us organize a deck together. I love it when they put the cards in a mandala or there's something going on there. Um, an excellent guidebook would be the any of the guidebooks, particularly the one that accompanies the Wildwood Tarot, because it gives you the details of the system. This is really important to understand that in working with a deck. You can't just pick up a deck like this and not understand the system. Could and I say that, yes, you could read this completely intuitively, but what the not so little companion guide gives you is so much more information that makes it easier to understand the layers and therefore build the layers of your reading and make your readings more meaningful and more complex and ultimately enjoy working with the deck a little bit more. Okay. I see a comment by Audrey I must respond to. All right. Now, next Friday, I am going to do a similar video on oracle decks, but I'm going to respond to Audrey's comment here. But I'm going to come back because I think the approach with oracles is a lot different, and I'll share that with you next Friday. But I want to talk a little bit about the Rumi Oracle, as well as the guidebooks in general by Alana Fairchild. Okay. So for those of you that don't know, Alana Fairchild has written the guidebook for many, by Darcy, um, many oracle decks, and is a gifted medium. So she is able to download from, oh my goodness, like she is a gifted medium. So what you tend to get in her guidebooks is a downloaded message by Tarot Geek, a downloaded message, and then you get a oracular sort of message or how to work with the card, and you get practices as well too. And so what I want to say with these very dense guidebooks is to take them only one card at a time, to never, um, I would never do a spread with when the guidebook is so dense like that, but we're gonna talk more about that next week, okay? Welcome. Nice to have you here in the chat. Christine Ananda. Kristen Ananda. Welcome. Yeah. I, a a good guidebook you can take to bed with you and just really enjoy it like you would any other book. It's not boring. It's not things to memorize. There are inspiring quotations and poetry, and, yeah, it's really beautiful, a good when a guidebook is well done, okay? So next week, let's carry on this conversation, and I will share with you some ideas on working with new oracle decks because the approach is different. And also, I'm going to kind of uh, cater the conversation next week for people who want to get into cards, but find tarot too intimidating. So if you find tarot too intimidating and want to get into the cards, I think the discussion next week will be perfect for you. But also, if you are looking for suggestions on how to introduce oracles in different ways into your practice, there'll be something for you as well too. Okay. So that's a wrap for this Friday, the 24th day of February. It's been great chatting with you. And once again, be sure to check out my webpage. I am in the process of adding all kinds of courses and workshops. And so, in addition to Tarot Through the Planets, I am right now editing the content of Tarot Through the Chakras. And so those workshops will be available again soon as well too. Okay. Bon weekend. Enjoy your weekend if it is indeed a weekend for you. Aloha to Jonathan. And Jonathan, I will see you on Sunday. Okay. Bye, everybody. Namaste.